Good evening, guys. You know what time it is. It's time for tactics. Hey, so welcome back to the Tactics with Trav YouTube channel. We're going through all things tactical when it comes to chess. Guys, I'm going to bring to you a really good game, a really insightful game. You're going to see why and how playing the way that we do on the Tactics with Trav YouTube channel is so effective. And this isn't just limited to lower rated players, guys. Like I just crushed a 2000 playing this way. And you probably saw my other video about beating a 2053 USCF over the board rated player, but he hadn't been active for years. So I don't really count that. But this is the highest rated player over the board, guys, I've ever beaten. So I know my chess is hot right now, just the way that I play, the way I practice with all the tactics. And you guys know I advise like do 5 tactics puzzles a day and do it over the board. So take it from like Lead Chess or chess.com or Chess Tempo or wherever and set it up over the board because that's going to simulate a real over the board game. But let me tell you about my opponent. So this is round 2, and he was a very strong player. So he's in the top 100 in the country for 14-year-olds. And as you know, if you play competitive chess, just because you're a kid doesn't mean you're not good. In fact, most of the kids are very strong, the good ones, because they play all the time. So don't be like, oh, he's only 14. Like a lot of these kids are really, really good. And his name's Oliver Ohly, or Ohly. I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly. Very strong player. Like no holes in his game, really. I mean, he was solid, and I had to calculate and do some really cool stuff tactically to bring it home. So let's just get into the game here, guys. Against Kansas's 7th best player, he played D4, guys. This is the first time someone's played D4 on me in a tournament in quite a while. And I was excited for it because you guys know how I play. And whenever you play against a D4 player, it's not, you can't say always is too strong of a word, but they're usually just very safe and solid positional players. They don't really have that many holes in their game, but they also generally don't play that tactically. And that's probably a point in their game, if you had to be real nitpicky, that's probably the least honed in their game. So they're probably really strong positionally. And that's a total generalization. Like Oliver could be amazing in tactics. He just happens to like D4. And I'm just maybe putting him in a bucket that's not correct. But he plays D4, and I instantly play Knight F6, and he plays C4, guys. So this is the Queen's Gambit. Very strong opening, very solid opening. And in my opinion, it's not really a gambit because white can always get the C4 pawn back. If you know the lines, they're going to try to take over the center. And if you try to hold on to the pawn with on the black side of things, white can play A4, and then B5 takes A4, and white is going to end up with a very strong position. So in most cases, if not 99% of the time, white's going to get the pawn back. So it's not like he's even really playing at gambit. But I'm going to steer him into the direction that I want to play. This is how we do it, right? So I played the Budapest Gambit, guys. Game 90, increment 30. I played a gambit. And it's a solid defense. So there's a lot of traps in this defense, guys. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to respect myself tomorrow if I don't play it. I was between this and the King's Indian defense, but I was like, you know what? Let's just go for it. So I played E5. So my opponent, Oliver, thought for a little bit, and he ended up taking the pawn, and I played Knight to G4. So after that, he played Knight to F3. And I played D6, which is the Adler variation of the Budapest Gambit. So after D6, he takes D6. And I was getting more excited by the second, guys, because there's a huge trap in this line for Budapest Gambit players. So how it goes is like this. If white were to play H3 from this position, I would take the pawn on F2. And if after knight takes F2, king takes F2, black, I would play bishop to G3, winning white's queen. And that's all because of a bad move of H3 if he were to play that. So just you got to be aware of this trap if you play white, and you definitely want to be aware of it if you like playing the Budapest Gambit against Queen's Gambit players. So if H3, knight takes F2, king takes F2, and bishop to G3, check, winning the queen. So I had that in my back pocket if he were to play h3, but sadly he doesn't, and he plays knight to c3, which kills that trap idea right away, because now it's not going to work, because white's queen would be defended by this knight on c3. So we can forget that line, but just be aware of it if you play white or black. Now I play knight c6, developing. So even if we don't get a cool trap playing black, we also get really fast, rapid development. So I really like the Budapest Gambit against the Queen's Gambit, even in long time controls like this. E3, castles kingside, bishop to E2, and bishop to F5, just developing my pieces, guys, getting my pieces super active. So if you've seen my videos before, you know I almost prioritize active pieces over a pawn, especially in the first like 20 moves, because if you have active pieces, guys, you can do a lot of damage, and you can usually win quickly, or you give yourself a chance to win quickly. Knight to D4, attacking my bishop, and also kind of a fork, you know, between my knight and bishop here. Knight takes D4, E takes D4, and pause your videos, guys. So take a look at this position. So white has how many attackers on my knight on G4? 2, right? So instead of just running away and like coming back to knight F6, what's a tactics with Trav type move? A move that we would play on this channel to not be passive, but to be active and to develop a piece while also addressing this situation. That's right. We played rook to E8. We develop another piece. So we get our rook barreling down the E file, pinning this bishop to the king, which is kind of an annoying move for white, because he can't take my knight. I get to keep my knight here. And I had some pretty devious ideas, guys, because if he were to play like H3, we don't even move the knight then. We would go queen to H4, which would pin the pawn to this rook. So if the pawn were to take, we would take the rook, right? So I'm not even going to move my knight if he plays H3. So he sees this. He's a good player. This pin is probably quite annoying for him. And after rook to E8, he plays G3, which I thought was an excellent move. Stockfish also called it a great move. So very good move, because it keeps me from going queen H4. And I played C6 here next to keep his knight from jumping here or here, and to eliminate any kind of counterplay that white can generate here on the queen side, which is it's kind of an annoying threat. And it also keeps my queen from having to defend this. Even though my bishop would defend it, I want these pieces to be active and flowing. King to F1. I thought this was a great move, guys, and Stockfish liked it as well, because that pin is really annoying to white. So he can't castle, because if he does, we have just so much pressure going down the E file, guys. Like it's not good for white to castle, and it's easier and safer for his king to try to manually castle by going here and then probably coming to king G2. But he also revives this attack on the knight. So now this is a real threat, and I have to move my knight because his bishop is no longer pinned. So now I come back to knight F6, and he goes king G2. H6 to prevent his dark square bishop from pinning my knight to my queen by coming to bishop G5. B3. Trying to develop his dark square bishop, because he doesn't really have any good squares over here. If he goes here, I'm just going to take it, and his pawns are doubled on the F file. He can't go here now. And yeah, just trying to get his dark square bishop into the game. Queen to D7. I like this move a lot too, because I'm threatening to go bishop to H3 check, which would be really nasty for white, because the king would come to G1, and I'd have a great position with my bishop there on H3 as just a thorn in his position. So he plays h3 to keep me from doing that. And now I play rook e7. The idea behind this move, guys, was to get a battery with this rook coming here and have a really strong battery on the e file. And just positionally, I'm just very, very active, guys. Look at my pieces. Yes, I'm down a pawn. My material-wise, I'm down, but look at White's position. Like, he barely has anything going on. Like, his knight is the only decent piece that he has. This isn't really doing much. His queen, like, these pieces aren't even developed yet. His king has had to move. Like, Black's position is way better. So after rook to e7, he played bishop b2 and develops his dark squared bishop. And now I complete my development with rook a to e8. So completely developed, guys. All the pieces are in the game doing things, being active. And he plays bishop to f3. Now I played knight to e4, which is a strong move. Centralizing my knight, but also some ideas here, guys, of an attack, like starting my attack. So if, like, what I was thinking here is if knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, bishop takes e4, rook takes e4, I have a really strong position because I own the e file, and that makes me really happy. So that, to me, just owning the e file was enough compensation because of how active my pieces are, that I could launch an attack successfully on the king side eventually. So after knight to e4, he doesn't take the knight. Like, he doesn't, he just leaves it there. And I think this is the beginning of the end for my opponent. So he plays d5, guys. Shame on d5! Shame on that move! So d5 is an awful, guys. It's an awful move. It's a blunder because after d5, pause your videos. What does Black play here? And calculate it out. All the lines. All right, you ready? So d5 was a bad move. It was a blunder because Black can play bishop takes h3 check, which is a monster move. And if you did the calculations and you went through all the different branches, there should be about 4 of them. So what we have is if king were to take on h3, we have the simple knight takes f2 forking the king on h3 and the queen winning the queen, right? But if king goes to h2, I have knight takes f2, still forking the rook here and the queen. And in that sequence, Black is up minus 6.09. So that's considered the second best move for White to go king h2. Now, the third best move is for White's king to come back to g1. And if king goes to g1, we do the same thing. We still take on f2. So if rook takes h3, so let's say the rook were to take here, knight takes f2, and if king takes f2, the queen takes on h3 because we deflected the king's defense away from the rook, right? So there's all sorts of tricks and combinations involved with bishop takes h3, which you have to see before you even make the move to properly do it the right way. So if rook takes h3, knight takes f2, king takes f2, queen takes h3, and also there's another line for the rook takes h3 line. So if rook takes h3, knight takes f2, knight takes, or rook goes back to h1, knight takes d1, and rook a takes d1. That's a suggested line by Stockfish. That's super counterintuitive. I don't think any human's going to play that, but that's the line that it suggests, guys, is the best line to deal with bishop takes h3, is for the rook to take, and then when I take here, knight takes f2, for that rook to come back to h1 and just drop the queen, and then knight takes d1, rook a takes d1. But that's a Stockfish line, guys. Like, I don't think any human's going to play that, but that's apparently the best line for this, and that's minus 4.08 for black. So I'm still up 4 points in that sequence. So after bishop takes h3, what Oliver did was go with the third best line. He went king to g1, and then I took on g3. I sacked my knight on g3, which was just to rip open this king side. Because if knight takes g3, f takes g3, my queen still defends the bishop, right, from his rook. And look at that bishop pair, guys. The pawn takes here. I got a bishop pair on the 6th rank, aiming right at black's king. And there's all sorts of attacks and threats, like rook comes to e1 with a rook fork on the king and queen. So that would be the threat here if he were to take with f takes g3. So instead of taking the knight, he goes D, he plays an in-between move with D takes C6 to attack my queen first. And I took back here, B takes C6. And now he takes F takes G3. So I had a deep think here, guys, because it actually gets really tactical. If I take the pawn now, that is not good for me, because then black or white can trade down with say queen takes d7. And the real reason, other than that, is because there's no forcing enough combination to checkmate white here. So I don't want to trade my queen, because my queen's my strongest attacker, right? So what I was looking at was bishop takes g3, and if queen takes d7, rook to e1 check, rook takes e1, rook takes e1 checkmate. But it doesn't have to go that way. So that's only if he proceeds that way. If bishop takes g3, and like he can go knight to e4 and stop all those threats. And this queen is still defended by this rook, so I can't lop off the queen first and then kind of force it, because this knight coming here on an in-between move stops the whole threat of rook to e1 check, which leads to the checkmate. So that's the reason I didn't proceed with bishop takes g3, because of knight to e4, which interferes. It's an interference tactic. It's also an in-between move. Nice Wiesenzug that he would have seen. I'm almost certain he would see it, because he's a high-rated player. So I did not take the pawn here because of this. So instead I played bishop to c5 check, which is also pretty dangerous, because now I have this crisscross pattern with the bishops, and this king has to go here, and then it's just very oddly placed there, and my attack can be very effective with his king on h2, and I'll show you how. So after bishop c5 check, king goes to h2, and now we gotta maintain the defense of that bishop. So I gotta go queen to f5, get my queen more active, attacking this bishop here, and also ideas of maybe going c2, queen c2 check, if this queen were to move off d1 from defense of this square. Bishop takes c6. Bishop, no, I'm proud of this move here, guys. So he's attacking my rook here, right? So a normal move would be, okay, he's attacking a higher rated piece, let's move the piece. But what's pause your videos, what's a tactics with Trav move? What's a move that we would work on, guys, to be more of a counter attacker versus a defender? What's a good move here for black? That's right, bishop to g4 with an attack of our own. So instead of addressing this problem here, we're going to counterattack you with his Wiesenzug. So we're going to hit white with bishop to g4, which keeps us in the driver's seat with the initiative. So now this attack here is more important than this attack. So after bishop to g4, he goes queen to f1, but that was perfect, because remember what we said, why did our queen go to f5 to begin with? Because if that queen were to ever move off d1, it's relinquished defense over the c2 square. So now we can go queen to c2 check. Queen comes to G2. So pause your videos here, guys. What's a good move? What's a good tactic for us? And calculate it 2, 3, 4 moves deep. All right, you ready? Rook to E2 check. Sacking our rook for the knight here because we get a nice pin on the queen, which is, if you see the correlation here, this should be the first trigger that you get when you see the queen in front of the king like this. How can I pin the queen to the king? And the way we do it, because we had our rook battery, right? Because we had a good position. So like Bobby Fischer said, tactics flow from having a superior position. So you can't just be a tactical player, you got to play positionally as well. And after rook to E2 check, knight takes E2, and rook takes E2, pinning the white queen to the king. So after rook takes E2, rook H to E1, and rook takes G2 check here. Bishop takes G2. And what's the best move here, guys, for black? Pause your videos. This is another tactical quiz for you. Do we take the bishop on B2 or do we do something else? That's right. We delay taking the bishop on B2 for now because we have something more pressing, because we can make white's pieces more passive by playing bishop to F3 with the adage of adding pressure to a pin piece. So this is more important than taking this bishop right now because white's pieces could get really active otherwise. So let's say I didn't go bishop F3 and I were just to take the bishop, then he can go rook here to here, attacking my queen, which is a higher priority attack, and now I got to deal with it. Whereas if I go here and now he goes here, I can still win this bishop with checkmate, which is always the best move. Or it puts us in the driver's seat with more initiative. So that's why we play bishop to F3. We don't just take the bishop right away. Rook to G1, making that rook passive that was on an open file. And now bishop, this dark square bishop takes the rook. Now rook takes G1. Look how passive his pieces are. He's not doing anything, guys. He's just responding to my threats. That's exactly how we want our opponents to play, responding to us. Now we can take the bishop. Queen takes B2. King to H1, getting out of the pin. His bishop's pinned to his king, moving it out of the way. And if you guys have seen Remote Chess Academy, Igor, to take is a mistake, right? So do we want to take the bishop on G2, or is it better just to defend the bishop? That's right. It's better just to move queen to E2 and take more control over the position rather than take his bishop. Then all of a sudden our queen's on pre from his rook. So it's better to go queen E2. Now bishop takes F3 and queen takes F3 check, and my opponent resigned. Like, guys, we completely dominated a 2000 here playing like this. So the sky's the limit if you play tactically, because we play creative, interesting, attacking, aggressive chess. Like, we don't play boring chess here. And there's so much improvement to be had from all of us. I'm really excited, guys, because this is the highest rated player I've ever beat over the board. The previous highest rated player I had was 1 point lower, 1999 rated player, but that was back in like 2017. So really good game here, guys. I was really proud of this. And I hope you learned something about this, like how to play tactically. Maybe you just like the Budapest Gambit. You're going to give it a try now against D4 players when they play the Queen's Gambit. But guys, if you're seeing value from this, buy me a coffee or two in the link description. So the buy me a coffee link is in the link description down below. Just click on it. And I also want you to watch this video that just, it's inspiring for me, because I look at chess as like a fight, okay? So if you watch this video, this to me is kind of like one of the more inspirational scenes in a movie. This is how I felt when I won this game. So I want you guys to watch it. It's from one of the best boxing movies of all time. It's called Cinderella Man. And it's got one of my favorite actors, Russell Crowe, from the early 2000s. So watch this clip as well. So go to the Buy Me a Coffee link, and then also watch that clip that I'm referring to after this game from Cinderella Man. All right, guys, appreciate your viewership. We'll see you on the next video.